Welcome to The Rebound with Coach Matt Doherty.
Welcome to The Rebound. I am Matt Doherty, and I'll be your host. With me today is Kevin Cumbus, founder and president of TUSK Practice Sales in Charlotte, North Carolina. This conversation will delve into leadership, entrepreneurship, and the evolving landscape of the dental practice M&A industry, offering invaluable insight for business leaders and healthcare professionals alike. Kevin, welcome to The Rebound. Let's start from the beginning. Where did you grow up, and what was your childhood like?
Oh, geez. We're going to go all the way back there, huh? Okay, fine. So I was born in this sleepy little town called Montgomery, Alabama. My father was a pediatric dentist, which is influential in my career. So he was an entrepreneur. He built his business from scratch, and he does what good entrepreneurs do, which is not tell your kids the whole truth about business ownership. From my vantage point, it looked really fun. It looked pretty simple, but the reality was it's super hard. But that definitely planted a seed in me because I saw all the things that it afforded our family, candidly, and all the good things he was able to do for his team. And he was the first real influence in my life around what a good culture looks like. So I had an excellent foundation through him. Loved high school, was a two-sport athlete, got into Washington and Lee, a little liberal arts school up in Lexington, Virginia. They were foolish enough to let me in, Matt, because I applied early, and the fallback school was the University of Alabama. I probably would have had a lot more fun in Tuscaloosa. Yeah. It might have taken me 7 or 8 years to graduate if I even did graduate, but I loved Washington and Lee. So there, here I am from Montgomery, right? And I go to Lexington, and for some reason, I think I'm in like the North, and I meet all these guys from Stony Brook and Garden City and Darien, and they think they're in the deep South, and we just come to realize we met in the middle. And it was the most fun. I needed a mix-up of culture to get a better appreciation of how big our country is and how diverse it is. And really, how to tell a joke from the South is so different from telling a joke from the North.
Well, I have a lot of directions I can go. How do you tell a joke from the South versus telling it from the North? I have to ask that. That's what the audience, I think, went with.
So in the South, what we like to do is start slow, be very clear, articulate who these individuals are. There's about an 8 to 10 minute buildup to maybe a 1 minute punchline. And in the South, in the North, if you wait 9 minutes to tell a joke, you're crushed. I mean, those guys were so quick, so biting, so quick-witted. I'd never seen anything like it, and I was just drawn to and attracted to that type of humor. It was great.
That's awesome. What sports did you play in high school?
So I played basketball and football in high school, and with a small school, I graduated with 50 kids, 50.
Right.
So they will let you play any sport you have an interest in when there are only 50 kids in the high school class.
Tell me the impact of playing sports on you as a business leader, entrepreneur, and how you think that impacts young people today when you are maybe interviewing them for TUSK.
Yeah, that's a good one. So I'll speak about football because I was closest to that sport and really connected with it the most. My father was a big-time high school football player, and one of his classmates became our high school football coach. So he was always had a pretty keen eye on me and held me on a pretty tight leash. So look, football is hard. The 2-a-days, summertime in Alabama in August are hard. You show up at 6, you get there, you sweat, you get yelled at, you hang your pads up, you go home, you lay in an ice bath, you take a nap, and you go back over and over and over again. So how do you get through something like that? First thing we did was we built a common enemy on our crosstown rival. And that became our rallying cry of who are we going to beat and why are we here? It's bigger than us. This is something that's important to us, and we really had to build a goal around what we were going to do with our season. And we, as a team, as a leadership team, as the captains, came up with that, and it served us really, really well. When you saw somebody hurting, we'd yell that team's name, like, "What are you going to do against Trinity?"
Right,
it inspired you.
That's right.
So that was the first one, is kind of building, I guess, a rallying cry in many ways, to something to rally around as a team.
Right.
And then the second thing was, on those Tuesday, second day of practice in the middle of August, when you don't want to go back, you think about who all you'd be letting down.
That's right.
And it was as much a sense of camaraderie and working together through the collaboration of the game of football as it was not wanting to let somebody down. And those are both very motivating factors. But in me, the not wanting to let someone down was a much stronger motivator than performing together collaboratively. Those are two very vivid emotions I have from that time of my life.
I have chills up my spine and the hairs raising up on my arm. How do you carry that over to TUSK?
Yeah. So here at TUSK, so all we do is sell healthcare practices for entrepreneurs who have built really healthy businesses, somewhere in the order of $500,000 of EBITDA to $20 million of EBITDA. These are typically founder operators that are debt funded. These are guys that are just like me. They're just like the guys in our Vistage group. They're proud of the businesses that they built. And it's an honor when they choose to work with us to help them monetize their life's work. It is an honor. So that's one thing that I am part of my team here. It's an honor to do that. And because most of our clients are still working clinically, we get to work when they don't. And what that means is 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. East Coast time, 5 p.m. to whenever in the evenings. Yes, and weekends count too. And what I tell them is, guys, we can't let this individual down. They have worked every day in their life building their business, be it patient by patient, team member by team member, location by location, debt burden by debt burden. And they have entrusted us to sell their life's work. And this is a responsibility we have to take seriously. So when they call you, the answer is yes. When they text you, the answer is yes. Yeah, that might mean you have to step away from the dinner table a little bit early, or walk away from a Little League baseball game to take a call. But that's what you're signing up for here. And what's so cool is, like, one of our core values is all in. And what that means to me is the answer is yes. Whenever someone is needed, you work together, you rally together, and you solve the issue at hand.
OMJ Clothing is an elite men's clothing store that provides a vast array of spectacular brands of men's lifestyle apparel for every day. Elevate your business upscale casual at OMJ. Success comes from standing out. You and I talk a lot as we work together through Vistage, where I'm an executive coach and chair, and you are a member of one of my Vistage groups, which is the peer advisory group here in Charlotte, North Carolina, about 18 members. We meet once a month. We process issues. We bring in speakers, and then we meet on a one-to-one basis. We talk a lot about core values, and you are all in on core values. Talk about the other core values, and how do you leverage them when you hire people, when you train people, and when you let people go?
Yeah. So we've evolved over time on our core values. We had an EOS implementer that really helped us articulate what these are and help us understand the power of them. They are not something to be written down and live on your computer somewhere. We look at them at every one of our level 10 meetings. We discuss them and praise people because of them on our monthly meetings. And we like to do these core value call outs where junior team members will call out senior team members, and senior team members will call out junior team members when they see that they embodied one of our four core values. So our core values are, as I stated before, all in. That means it's pretty straightforward, right? You are here. When you're here, you are leaning in, and the answer is yes. The second one is own it. Pretty straightforward, but the sub bullet point there is own the wins and the losses, because the losses are where the lessons live. And if you can own those losses and share those lessons to the rest of the team, we don't all have to suffer the same fate over and over and over again.
Yeah. Repeat that quote. And did you, is it an original quote or did you steal it? Losses are where lessons live. I love that.
I don't know if I heard it somewhere and stole it, but that's the way we talk about it here.
Yeah, no, I think you say it 3 times and then you own it. You don't have to give anybody else credit. So I'm going to say it 2 more times and then it's mine and I won't give you credit. Is that fair?
You can do that as my son already hears me say that all the time. Because we use this in our family as well. When you're a 16-year-old new driver, you're going to have some losses. And also with my daughter, when you're a 13-year-old middle school girl going through middle school with the social media world, you're going to have some losses.
Yeah.
And what we talk about is how quickly can we get to the lesson?
That's right.
What's the lesson? Where does the wisdom live? And how do we impart the wisdom throughout the rest of the organization? How do we
hence the title of this show. How do you rebound from losses? There are big losses, right? Major setbacks, but there are you have to rebound along the way. In the course of a game of basketball, if you shoot 50%, that's a good percentage. So each team shoots 50%. There's a lot of rebounds, and so that's where the lessons are. So losses happen. Losses are where the lessons live. Losses are where the lessons live. Losses are where the lessons live. It's now my quote.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Send me a T-shirt once you get them printed up. So that's number 3. Sorry, that's number 2 is own it. Number 3 is honesty with empathy. So what I tell my team is we have a hard job because we have to deliver a lot of bad news sometimes, right? We're taking a deal to market, and the reception from the market isn't what we thought it would be.
Yeah.
Or there's been a material decline in EBITDA as a result of the quality of earnings that's going to impact the enterprise value. Bad news does not get better with time. I can promise you that. So we have to deliver both good news and bad news quickly and honestly, but always with empathy and respect.
Well, you know what? I'm going to make up another T-shirt, the second T-shirt. Bad news does not get better with time, unlike wine.
Unlike wine. So, and that was a learned lesson from a deal. I mean, I learned that from a deal where I was trying to hold on to some bad news in hopes that I would get some good news so I could give him the sandwich. You know the sandwich? Deliver a little bit of good news, deliver just a chunk of bad news, and then a little bit of good news, and hope that he might just forget about the bad news in the middle. And he knew my silence to him was deafening. Yeah. And he called me out. He said, Kevin, if you've got some bad news for me, I need to know it now, because bad news does not get better with time. So that was a lesson I learned from a client.
That's awesome. How long ago was that?
Oh, that was probably 8 years ago. So that we're in our 10th year of business today. So that was 8 years ago.
I mean, that was probably devastating at that point for you. But what a powerful message, right? Like if our audience gets one nugget and it's bad news does not get better with time, it's a good show. That's awesome. That's such a great nugget. All right. So all in, own it, honesty with empathy. What's next?
Yes. Our fourth and final core value is servant leader. And I'll give you a living example of this as well. Well, I'll give you 2. Everyone's expected to empty the dishwasher. Everyone's expected to do their own dishes. And everyone's expected, if you're walking out of the office, it's to go around and say, hey, I see you're still working. What can I do to help you get home more quickly tonight? What can I do for you? And that's just showing respect and leadership in a way where I'll serve you if it helps get us all out to a better place sooner rather than later. And so that's one piece of it that manifests itself inside the office. But there's a second piece to this. So one thing my father instilled in me in a young age is giving back to your community. Uh-huh. And it's something that I believe personally and spiritually in. It's something that we've done inside of our church. And it's something that I really wanted to, it's been on our 5-year goal from the minute we started this business, is starting to give back to others. So we began a campaign about 3 years ago. It has multiple facets that I won't go into. But to date, our company has given $60,000 back to various causes.
Right. And
I love it because, one, it feels amazing. But two, I feel like it's an opportunity to teach as a leader, a younger generation, about giving back to help those in need. I think we've all seen the study that after some level of income, after your basic needs are met, your level of happiness doesn't go up a whole hell of a lot when you start making a lot more money. So, but the level of happiness you can get from writing a check for $100 to a community need, that can feel so much better than blowing $100 on a dinner with a date night out.
Yeah. Yeah. I can go a lot of different directions here, but let's stick with the core values. And I want to touch on two things. You mentioned EOS, and for the audience that's not aware, EOS is the Entrepreneur's Operating System based, there's a book called Traction, or What the Heck is EOS? And when I say operating system, I'm not talking about computer hardware. We are talking about how do you organize your org chart? How do you create your vision, your mission, your core values? How do you develop standard operating procedures? How do you develop a cadence of meeting, setting goals, all those things that are so foundational? And I talk about this in the organizational triangle, yep. Right? You know, that's the systems part right down here, that if you don't have good systems, you won't be able to support the talent at the top. So the couple things, I find leaders, if they have core values, they don't know them like you do. Two, they don't know how to operationalize them. You mentioned, when you leave the office, make sure you go up to the people that are still there, offering help as a servant leader, doing the dishes, those kind of things. The toughest thing I've found for leaders in terms of culture is holding people, or even systems, holding people accountable. How do you hold people accountable? You're in the office, somebody leaves early, you see them jet out. What's your reaction?
So I'll own this. Sometimes I have a hard time having the hard conversation the first time I see it. Yeah. And it was a real issue inside of this organization about 3 years ago. And I would stuff that emotion down and not say anything and hope that they would get better. And I was not the best at holding people accountable to the core values that we established inside of this organization. When I heard about that, we had this exact example. Someone was leaving early and not asking, can I help you? A little selfish on the way out. I get it. We're all busy, got families, right. Fine. But it was pissing off one of his colleagues. And he was telling someone else inside the organization that his colleague was not living up to the core values. And then it bubbled up to me, and I felt this big. And I said, okay, we gotta lay something out here. And this was more for me than anyone else, where the theme for the year became see something, say something. So I was in New York during September 11th. Yep. That was kind of the theme of New York City, and it became the theme of our business, because what I really wanted to do was empower the newest team member to hold me accountable. Yeah. And for me to have the flexibility to hold someone else accountable. We talk about managing up, right? You should be able to have, I claim we've got a flat organization, but if the newest team member isn't comfortable coming in my office and saying, Cumbus, when you did this, it didn't feel like you were all in. So we had a year of that conversation. I pulled every individual into my office for a one-on-one conversation about see something, say something, and it greatly improved this entire organization. And what it allowed us to do was go, when we saw someone or some action that wasn't chinning to the bar of the core values that we loved, I would ask a couple other people, right? I would say, hey, I saw this. Let me check with you. Did you see it? I just want to make sure I'm not going to pounce on somebody. And if we saw it, then we'd have the conversation, right? But I would still have to check with someone to give myself permission to have that one-on-one conversation with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you create a culture where the person receiving the feedback is hopefully conditioned to receive it well, right?
Right. So what you don't want to create is a tattletale culture where, right, hey, someone sees it and they go to their boss and the boss then has to have the conversation with them. You want that conversation to happen between the person who saw it or experienced it and the person that actually performed the action.
Yeah. How do you interview for that? Well, let me back up. Why is that important? Like I when I first became an executive coach, I was blessed to come from great cultures as a player in high school for Bob McKillop at Holy Trinity High School and Dick Zeitler, and then in North Carolina playing for Dean Smith. I thought it was normal, good cultures, and to me, it's tough to see it and touch it. It's a feel thing, right? And some people, don't know how to measure it, so they don't think it's important, or they never experienced a good culture and why it's important. Why is a good culture important? To the bottom line, let's talk.
Yeah.
And let me add, Kevin, you are evaluating companies for sale.
Right.
How much of a percentage factor or weight do you put on a good culture in a company you're looking to sell?
Let me start by unpacking this by giving you some experiences I had in businesses I worked in that are culture related. Okay. So I told you about Dad's culture. I told you about that experience, and that was kind of the baseline. I worked at a investment bank I will not name for about 2.5 years. The gentlemen inside that organization did not have pictures of their kids up. They did not coach Little League. They were on their 3rd or 4th divorce. And when someone at the analyst pool or associate pool would have a 3rd baby, they would pull each other aside. And I heard this said, he's ours. We got him. They viewed us as income producing widgets. They didn't know our spouses' names. They did not know our children's names. It was all about the almighty dollar. And I'm a capitalist. You can be a capitalist and have a great culture. Right. I've seen if you pop over to my LinkedIn,
that might be a T-shirt too. But anyway, go ahead.
So if you look at my LinkedIn, you will see I couldn't hold a job. So the longest place I'd ever worked is this business. Before that, it was like 3 years here, 4 years there, 3 years here, 4 years there. So I got to see a lot of cultures. And what I saw at the investment bank was people did not want to be there, but they stayed because of the income. Then I went to another culture that was a small business that was family owned and operated. And the culture was that actually the boss didn't even work in the office. The boss was married to the person who claimed to be the boss. That leads to an interesting culture, like a family dynamic culture as well. So when I built the culture for TUSK, we looked at all the stuff that I looked at all the things I'd experienced and said, I don't want that. I did like this. I don't want that. I did like this. And the other thing I did is I sat down with my co-founding partners at the time. And I said, this is who I am. I'm going to be the same person I am in front of my kids, in front of my spouse, on the road, and with you all. And this is what's important to me. Mm-hmm. And one of the things is when you ask me how I'm doing, I'm going to tell you the truth. If I'm having a bad day, you're going to get to hear about it. If I'm having a great day, you're going to get to hear about it. And if you don't ask me, that's not going to bother me. I just won't tell you.
Right.
So we started with that. What we've seen over time is team members become like the torchbearers of your culture, and it lives on whether or not you're in the office or not.
Oh, yeah.
And it becomes this tool of attraction and retention that the team is magnetically attracted to, and that when others come in and see it, they want to be a part of it.
That's right.
We'll do fun things like a March Madness party where we shut down the office for the day. All the TVs have all the games on. People are playing Pop-A-Shot in one corner. We've got a full bar here. We got the music going. For the Masters, we'll order in the whole Masters setup with the egg salad sandwiches and the chicken salad sandwiches. There are little things that we do, that I do, to show appreciation for these guys that don't cost a whole hell of a lot,
right,
but really just reward and recognize them. So how does that manifest itself in value? I'll speak about the healthcare industry first. During COVID, a lot of baby boomers who had worked longer than they needed to financially looked at their spouse or their loved ones or their grandkids that they were not seeing enough and said, what in the hell am I doing? I've got all the money I need. I'm just going to quit. And this happened up and down the spectrum, be it nurses at hospitals, physicians, dentists, dental assistants, everywhere. That was not culture related. That was like, I just kept doing the same thing each and every day because that's just what I did. And they looked at their bank balance. They said, I can quit. I'm going to enjoy my retirement now. So how do you attract great talent going forward? Because people, there's a small labor force and there's a lot of opportunity available in healthcare today. They're going to the cultures that embody fun and that look like a place they want to be at, right? So if you're not having fun at the office, if you're not smiling, if you're not laughing, even when work is hard, like if you're not enjoying what you're doing, and that starts at the top, if you're not coming into the office every day, high-fiving your team, let me get you a coffee. Hey, let's sit down for a minute. Did you listen to this podcast? Did you do that? If that's not the environment that a candidate comes into, they will not sign up for that job because there are other options for them.
That's right.
So how does it manifest itself into value? You retain employees, you can attract employees, and you can pay them a fair wage, but you don't have to overpay them to be there like I was at the investment bank. That's the kicker. You don't have to overpay them to be there.
All right. Next question that I love to ask: how do you recruit to your culture? Because a lot of people get fooled in an interview, right? So how do you find out if the candidate, who has a lot of options, is a good fit for TUSK partners, or, if you're consulting with one of your potential clients?
We got to get better at this. I'll just go ahead and own that piece of it. We are good, not great at this. I think it comes down to the fact that we don't spend enough time on the front end fully articulating what all in means, what own it means, and giving real world examples like I have here. I'm typically one of the last interviews, and we'll sit down and give a brief history of the business and then talk about the core values. That's really my job when it comes to interviewing candidates. They've been through multiple rounds by that point, multiple dinners. But even when you tell somebody, when the doctor says, can you talk at 8 p.m. on Tuesday night, and you're at soccer practice, the answer is yes. Until that happens and you're sitting there at the crossroads wondering if you're going to make the decision or not, it's hard. It's really hard for us to judge that. We're getting better at it, Matt, but we got a long way to go. The energy of a new hire really starts to wear off about 60 to 90 days in, and you start to see who they really are. But there is certainly room for improvement there on our end.
Yeah, no, and that's just you're not going to bat 1,000%.
We've done great. Our recent hires have been fantastic. I look back over the last 5 years, and there's certainly some opportunities and some areas for improvement. I'll just call it that.
Yeah, no. It's why we call it practice. That's why I call it a leadership practice. That's why you practice sales, medical, dental sales, practice. I didn't really realize why dentists and doctors and lawyers called it a practice. I used to laugh saying, when you're done practicing and you're good enough, then you could work on me.
That's right.
But I realize that I run a leadership practice, that leadership is a practice. It is a skill that needs to be developed every day, and you will fail. You will make mistakes, and you just have to own it and learn from it, so that losses are, someone really smart guy once said, losses are where lessons live. So you own it, and you learn from those lessons, and you get better, right?
I would say here's the thing: like we're a small business. We got 14 team members, 9 here in Charlotte. The rest kind of scattered throughout the U.S. We play scrappy, we play lean, we play all in, and everybody can kind of move around in positions. Yep. If someone's coming from a larger organization, they're not accustomed to that. So we have to press hard on. You're coming from a Fortune 50, Fortune 100 business. Are you sure this is what you want? We still act like a startup. We pivot quickly. We tap each other in when needed. So that's been one of the interesting things in this world, is making sure that who you're hiring, especially if you're hiring from a larger organization, that they get and understand how you're built differently and what the expectations are in a small organization relative to a large organization where you show up at 8:01 and leave at 4:59. That is not who we are. Yeah.
You and I have worked together, peer advisory group. Tell me the benefits, tell the audience the benefit of peer advisory executive coaching.
So I've started a couple of businesses over my career. I had a long career in corporate America, had a lot of jobs, had a lot of mentors inside of those organizations. But when you step out on your own and you're funding a business with debt, and you're making all the decisions, and really the only person you're commiserating with is your spouse at home, it's lonely, and you're going to make some mistakes. And I have incorporated coaching into my life from pretty early on in my entrepreneurial journey, starting with EOS, and then worked with a virtual coaching group that was more tools based than community based. But what I've discovered at Vistage is every entrepreneur over the life of their journey is going to face the same problems.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter if you're running a 100-person workforce or a 10-person workforce. The 10-person workforce owner actually has something to share with the 100-person workforce owner. And I don't know if you can tell, I'm a people person, and I thrive around people. I like to be around people. I derive energy from people. And being inside of a cohort of like-minded people that have built up, for lack of a better term, a circle of trust, right, where we're willing to be emotionally vulnerable with one another and share, I've had a shitty quarter and this might be my worst year ever, and here's what I'm facing with respect to my personal relationships and my health, and I'm drowning and I need help. And you see 13, 15 people rally around that individual and say, you're the most important person in the room today. All right, we're going to hit pause on everything. We're going to make sure that you have a game plan coming out of this. And then we're going to assign an accountability coach because we love you enough to take time out of our busy schedule to make sure you're okay. It's magic. It's magic. So I need the community. I love the issue processing because I learned something from it, even if I'm not the one in the hot seat.
Right.
And then the accountability of meeting with you monthly, it's just another shot in the arm. So for me, this has been transformational for me personally and professionally, and the business has been rewarded tenfold on the investment of time and dollars.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you for sharing that. I had a Vistage meeting yesterday with the other CE group. The CE stands for Key Executive. The CEO group. And then we have a key executive, and we were going around, and we have a relatively new member, and he said, I'm reading the book Traction, which I recommend, which is based on EOS, Entrepreneur's Operating System. And he said, I knew that if I didn't do it, Matt, meaning me, would be a pain in the ass. So they started calling. They started calling me PETA, pain in the ass, PETA, Coach PETA. And, what's neat is that here are grown people, men and women in these groups who are very successful, who are admitting that they're to some degree afraid that if they don't do it, they're going to be called out. And that's the beauty, one of the biggest beauties of being a part of a peer advisory group and having an executive coach.
I just want to share one more thing that I think your listeners might appreciate or feel. When you decide to start a business and go all in and burn the boat, and you're on your own and you're working the hours you're working and you're sacrificing time away from your family, and your friends still have jobs, right? And they're still wondering, what in the hell is Kevin doing? And then if you have the hard work and the energy and it's met with in preparation and it's met with opportunity, and you're lucky enough to actually hit, and all of a sudden things are going up and to the right at a pace that you never in your wildest dreams imagined, you don't have many people to even talk with about celebrating the wins.
Right.
Because you don't want to be boastful and you don't want to brag, but you're living a different life at that point. It's a life that's fraught with peril. It's a life that is super risky. It's a life that is not everyday fun and does not return financial riches each and every year. But I've enjoyed having a group to celebrate with, as much as not so much commiserate with. If you need it, it's there, but to be able to celebrate their wins along with our company's wins as well.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about EOS again. From your experience, as you evaluate companies to bring to market, we've talked again about the organizational triangle, talent, systems, and culture. How do strong systems enhance the attractiveness of a business to potential buyers?
Yes. So any smart financial buyer, let's call it a private equity investor, is really trained to identify two things. One is cash flows, and the second one is risk. Cash flows are called EBITDA, right? Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. That is typically done on a trailing 12-month basis because the last 12 months are the best indicator of the next 12 months. So that's cash flow. And the risks is how likely is that EBITDA to appear next year, the year after that, and the year after that? And where do the risks live that would stand in the way of that? Well, if you've got great systems that are written down, that are clearly articulated, that are followed by all, next thing you know, the people are a little less important and key man risk goes down. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example of this. So we were representing the largest ortho business I have ever seen. He probably had 15 orthodontists working for him.
Wow.
I said, it was a doctor owner. This guy's an entrepreneur who just happened to be an orthodontist. This guy's brilliant. And I said, Doc, tell me, I'm nervous for you. What happens if an orthodontist leaves? He goes, I've got systems. The orthodontist is the least important person inside of my entire business. I have systems that support the assistants that show the doctor what to do. And I just have to have a licensed orthodontist in the room to legally perform these services. And he said that with such calm confidence that I knew this business was going to trade for 10 to 12 times. And I saw it manifest itself in the market. So it's the systems that the people can rely on and look to that you can also point to, train to, hire into, and replace from. So we are in the process. We have 80% of our systems documented right now. We are actually building our systems playbook and mapping. And I have my executive assistant building out agents in artificial intelligence based on those systems. So in case someone has a question about what do I do next, they go to that agent, they ask that question, it brings up the PDF, the PowerPoint, and walks them through the next step of the process. They're mission critical.
You hit a hot button in all of business right now, AI. How are you leveraging AI? How do you see the marketplace leveraging AI?
So when ChatGPT came out, I pulled my leadership team aside and I said, guys, I don't know if we've seen the competitor that could take us out. The competitor that could take TUSK out is likely doesn't exist yet. It'll be created by two 18-year-old kids in a garage using artificial intelligence, and we will not see it coming if we don't stay on the bleeding edge of this. So we added an AI minute to our EOS level 10 meeting each and every week. And the mandate to the leadership team was, what did you do with artificial intelligence this week? So what have we done in our business? We've consolidated our technology stack to a pure Microsoft stack, to where our virtual drives, our email, our video calling, all lives in one stack, so we can use Copilot effectively and efficiently. We're finding ways to make sure our guys never miss an email. We're basically building virtual assistants that live inside of their inboxes and bubble up to them the most important emails of the day, provide them summaries on their deals, and let them know which emails they have to respond to and which emails they don't. So I've told this team, I've got the right players on the field. I got them. These are the players we're going to have, but we may not have any additional players as we double the size of this business if we play our cards right with artificial intelligence. And what that would mean is everybody here can make a hell of a lot more money. So I want everybody invested in artificial intelligence. I want everybody digging deep, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, tinkering around with it at night, because your job is safe. Everybody's job here is safe. But if we can double the revenue with the tools that we have, you're going to make exponentially more money, and we'll be able to serve so many more clients that way.
Right. I talk a lot lately about the Eisenhower matrix. He has Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and Q1 is what's important and urgent. Q2 is what's important, not urgent. Q3, urgent, not important. Q4, not important, not urgent. And Vistage, executive coaching, reading, podcasts is Q2 work. And the better you live in Q2, quadrant 2, the less you have to live in quadrant 1, the better you live in Q2, like that orthodontist who had 15 orthodontists that practice. He lived in Q2 to develop a great practice. And that's where, you mentioned podcasts. I say your life's impacted by 3 things: the people you meet, the books you read, and the trauma in your life. And the first 2 you can control. The third is coming, whether you like it or not. So we're talking about books. We talked about traction. What are some other impactful books that you've read or you recommend?
Yeah, I would say the best book I've read in recent years is Bill Perkins' Die with Zero.
Yeah.
And I think it's critical for any entrepreneur to read that book. Bill's thesis is something that we all know, and that is, you can't take the money you make with you, right? You can't take the money you make with you. And if you live the life you want to live, take all the vacations you wanted to take, took care of your church, took care of your estate, maybe it's your children and your grandchildren's children, and you die with $2 million in the bank, you worked too long. You didn't enjoy, you got no utilization out of those dollars. Mm-hmm. I mean, that'll hit you hard because you could, and some people go, "What, I'm going to give it to my church upon my passing," but you didn't get to see the dollars at work in your church.
Right.
And you didn't get to take that trip to Africa with the grandkids when you could have, because you were afraid of, missing an extra week or 2 of work.
Right.
Because you were chasing something else. And there's this idea of building memories sooner rather than later, because memories, like dollars, compound. And you begin to compound these memories over the time. And that really builds a rich life. So you got to be careful what you start chasing, because the dollars, it really recalibrated my mind. Dollars, you kind of think that's the scorecard, but maybe experiences and time well spent is the scorecard. The other thing that Bill articulates that I've never seen articulated this way is you can hike Machu Picchu, right? You can ski the Swiss Alps. You can take a riverboat cruise down the Danube, and you can backpack across Europe. But there's an appropriate order in which you probably want to do those things, in which you can do those things. I'm 48 years old. The idea of staying in hostels right now probably isn't going to appeal to me. But when I was 18, it really did. So it's kind of like you put all so how did that, what was my reaction? It stopped me cold. I made a list of all these experiences that I wanted to have in my life. I wrote down the age of my son, the age of my daughter, how many more summers I had with them, Christmas breaks, Thanksgiving breaks. And then what you had were all these these puzzle pieces on the board. And you begin going, all right, I want to go to Africa with them. I'm actually going this summer before they leave the house. I'd like for them to see 6 of the 7 continents with me. I would like to do a one-on-one trip with my son every single year.
Yep.
And you know what? If the business is here to serve you as an entrepreneur. Do not become the slave to the business. The business is here to serve you. Early innings, I was a slave to this business.
Yeah.
And my family suffered because of it. They suffered. But now we're at a point where that doesn't have to happen. So because it doesn't have to happen, and I've got this incredible team that enables me to perform at my highest and best use each and every day, I need to be taking advantage of the business that I built and building in these experiences with them. So that's why Die with Zero changed my life.
Let that sink in. Dr. Werner Barkhusen, who is a very good friend, he came and spoke to our Vistage group. And I don't know if you were there at the time, but he's going to publish a book called Kill Your Ego. And he talked a lot about don't operate out of fog. And I know we talk a lot about that in our meetings, fear, obligation, guilt. So how does one get rid of the guilt of, I am going to step away for 2 weeks while my business has not quite matured yet and take my family to Africa, Disney, wherever? The fear, obligation, fear of it failing, the obligation that I've got to be there because I'm the leader, or the guilt of, boy, they're busting their butt and I'm out vacationing. How did you manage to overcome the fog?
Poorly at first, real poorly. When I started the business, I could do everything inside of it, so I chose to. That is a really crappy way to live a life. So I'd source the deal, I'd run the numbers, I'd run the deal, and I got good at it. And then you come to believe that you're the best at it. And then I came to believe that I was important and required inside of all these transactions. And then what was shared with me is you're actually holding your team back, and you're not enabling them to run a deal and make some mistakes. All right, Cumbus, did you make mistakes when you were running a deal? Yeah, all the time. And how do you learn, Cumbus? Like, only by making mistakes is the way I learn. Right. If you tell me that stove's hot, I'm going to touch it 3 times just to make sure, because I don't believe you. So I've got to make the mistake in order for it to really sink in. So it took a lot of pushing inside of Vistage, frankly, for the group to say, Kevin, it's unscalable what you're building. I was having breakfast one day with a colleague, and I said, man, I'm getting up at 3:30. I'm in the office by 4. I'm not getting home till 11. And the business, we're just kicking ass. And he looked at me and he goes, how long do you think that's sustainable for you? So the way I got comfortable with it was looking around at my team and saying, they deserve more. They deserve more opportunity, and they crave it and they wanted it. And when we talked about it, they're like, yeah, I've been sitting here quietly waiting for that opportunity. And what they didn't say, what they should have said is, but you've been too greedy and self-important and too egomaniacal to give me a chance. Now, could I have saved some deals that failed? Maybe. I don't know. Do I get called into the foxhole every now and then when the going gets tough? Absolutely. And it makes me feel like $1,000,000. But many times it just continues to go on and on and on without me even knowing what they're doing. And again, it's back to core values. But Matt, I was really, really bad at that. Really bad at that. And it took a lot of coaching from a lot of people to get me there.
Kevin, this has been really, really good. I love it. I love our relationship. I love your insight. It's so valuable to the listeners, to the audience. This is a great opportunity for people to learn and grow. Is there a question that I didn't ask that I should have asked you?
There's one thing I do want to share. My wife and I got married before going to graduate school. So we'd worked for 2 or 3. I worked for 4 years in New York before going to business school, and she went to law school. And we got out and we got the big fancy jobs, the big paychecks. And we made probably the smartest decision I've ever made, and that was to live on one income. And it meant that we didn't get the big house, and it meant that we didn't get the country club membership, and it meant that the kids didn't go to private school in TK. But what it did mean is we had professional flexibility individually. And without that, I would never have had the financial freedom to do what I did. Because
when you say do what you did,
become an entrepreneur,
right.
to leave a salaried job with safety and security, and to have her go, I'll put the family on my back. You run, you go. I mean, I had years where I made $6,000.
Knocked it out of the park.
Crushed it. And I'd come home and she'd give me a hug and say, it's okay. It's okay.
Wow.
So I do, like, your spending limits your availability to actually take risks.
That's
and I know that sounds so simple, but if we hadn't have made that one decision,
wow,
I don't know where my life would be.
Wow.
And I'm just so forever grateful for my spouse and the support that she has given me and this business. And it's been amazing. It's been simply amazing.
Well, Kevin, thanks for joining us on The Rebound. Your story is a great example of reinvention, leadership, the power of culture, the power of making great decisions, having a terrific partner in your wife. And our listeners, remember, learn and grow. Leadership is a learned behavior. We all lead in some way, shape, or form. We all deal with adversity. And when you do, I challenge you to rebound. I challenge you to learn and grow. If you'd like to contact me about executive coaching, workshops, or giving a keynote talk, you can reach me at dohertycoaching.com. That's DOHERTY coaching.com. Thanks for tuning in.